Hello, I am Espelancer. This is the Dallas Staryu channel and my second video application to become a GBA D-League analyst. And today we're going to be looking at coaching strategies. What has been effective in the GBA in the draft league format? We'll start by looking at Mega Mogwai of the Real Marill, a team that went 9-1 in a dominating performance last season and then went on to win the finals. And Miguel's success starts with his draft. He was able to draft a roster of very versatile Mons, many of which could fill many different roles as he needed. And Miguel, being a coach that is able to look at his opponent's team and identify the biggest threats to his team and find multiple ways of dealing with those threats, having such a versatile roster was inherently necessary in order for the Real Marill to be successful. And to give you an example of what I'm talking about here, Victini, starting with that. We've seen Victini run an expert belt set with mixed coverage to be able to handle multiple mons when necessary. We've also seen it effective as a hard-hitting nuke or as a choice scar Pokemon. Hydreigon, it's filled many different roles. It's filled a stall breaker role. It almost OHKO'd a Miltank with a Choice Specs Modest Draco Meteor as a heavy nuke. It's run Life Orb and Expert Belt sets, and it's even shut down an Entei, which is a Pokemon that could have one or two shot Miguel's entire team by running a defensive set, and was the key to Miguel winning that match. We've seen Florges do what Florges does as a special wall, even a physical wall in some cases, wish passing cleric, whatever Miguel needed. We've even seen offensive Florges take down a Mega Swampert and a Nidoking with Psychic. We've seen Stoutland fail at setting up the Sandrush sweep, but we saw what Miguel was doing. It was a good idea, and it might have worked had the dog been a little happier. But we've even seen it used as a switch into Mamoswine, a Pokemon that, quite frankly, uh, completely destroys Miguel's team. With Intimidate, its moves were only doing about 20%. It is this kind of creativity and this kind of team building that allowed Miguel to be successful in this past season. But we're not just going to look at Miguel. Let's also look at his opponent in the finals, Coach A Drive of the St. Louis Rampardos. This is a team that started out completely opposite of the Real Marill, where everyone expected the Real Marill to dominate. Nobody expected St. Louis to get off the ground at all. It went into week one at the bottom of the power rankings with a heavily criticized draft analysis by the GBA analysts. And over the course of the season, A Drive really opened a lot of eyes on just what kind of Pokemon can be effective in this format and what kind of strategies really work well. And at the end, he was at the top of the power rankings and convincingly took his conference. And he was only a taunt click away from taking the whole thing. But misplays happen. But ironically enough, even though St. Louis's draft was heavily panned, his success started with his draft. Drafting the Chansey Mega Sableye Walkcore was absolutely huge because that is a core that is very hard to break. And if you are facing the St. Louis Rampardos and you do not bring something to break that core, you're simply not going to win. We saw that in week three in the game versus the San Francisco Giants. San Francisco did not have anything to deal with the Chansey, and as a result, San Francisco lost out on the Stall War. But everyone thought that Mew is a Pokemon that it is very versatile. It should be that Pokemon that has a surprise factor on the team, and it turned out it was. Even though everyone thought that it was going to be locked into the defogger role, but very few teams really even try to put Stealth Rocks up. One, because Stealth Rocks doesn't really do much against A Drive's team, but two, the Mega Sableye has been a very potent deterrent from bringing the hazards. Even in the finals, Miguel said he's not even going to bother with hazards because it's simply not worth it. That allowed A Drive to use his very bulky team to stall out opponents left and right. And even the opponents that were very good, he was able to find sets that were able to deal with those opponents. For example, a physically offensive Mega Sableye taking out the New York Yankees team very effectively. That sucker punch on the Azel completely knocked it out in the first turn. Fire punch for Superior. That was a very interesting Mega Sableye set that if you want to be successful as a coach in a drafting format, you have to be able to think about these things. Physically defensive Mew completely shut down Mega Lopunny in the finals. Mega Lopunny is a Pokemon that everyone thought would completely unravel A Drive's team, and A Drive really dominated that game if it weren't for that misplay at the end. Nidoqueen is a very bulky offensive Pokemon that, quite frankly, it seemed like a lot of coaches weren't really looking at very hard because they were looking at the wall core. They were looking, this is a stall. I need to bring hyper offensive. I need to bring something to break this wall. When they didn't realize that, hey, he has Pokemon that can completely demolish their team with the right sets. Even Mew, it set up a sunny day and let Vileplume completely almost sweep the New York Yankees in their game week 7. These are the kinds of coaches that are successful in the draft league format. To look at their opponent's team and plan, for any eventuality. And both the Real Marill and the St. Louis Rampardos have been able to do this very well.